You're a socialist.
Yeah.
Where has that ever worked?
Again, the pause says it.
All right, so I'll be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to be reviewing a video by John Stossel. Now, for those who know, John Stossel, he's a reporter. He used to be on, I can't remember the name of the show, but it was on one of the network channels, right? And he basically has been fighting government overreach and socialism for a long time, a lot longer than, even I have been worried and concerned about it. So, I've always liked his content for just that reason. So in this video, he's actually going over the St. Paul rent control policy, and he talks to one of these government officials, one of these socialist government politicians who put these kind of policies in place and thinks that this is the solution to the affordable housing crisis. Now, obviously, to us landlords, we know better, right? But when you talk to one of these politicians, they think that, oh, well, this is the greatest idea ever. So when he confronts this politician with the facts, they are left speechless. They look like a complete moron. So, this is a really good video, and I really do appreciate it. But before I get into that, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know, do you like this sort of content? Do you want me to review more videos like this one? And if you do, go ahead and let me know down below, okay? This is the kind of thing that, I haven't really done a lot because it requires a little bit more effort than the regular news stories, and it takes a little bit longer to edit, but I think it's worth it to get some of these videos out there. So let's get into it.
Follow their lead.
She's the only Minnesota rent control promoter who'd talk to me.
If you're a builder, why would you build in a place where you can't raise the rent more than 3%, which is less than inflation?
If you're a person who lives in this city and you can't stay here anymore, then we don't have a city anymore.
But the way you have a city is if people build apartments and houses, and that's what eventually brings the price down.
In other cities, we have continued to see the development of property continue to happen.
What cities?
In San Francisco, there's continued to be development.
San Francisco? That's a bad example of new development.
Builders still build in Minneapolis. Building permits were up 65% last winter. But in St. Paul, they're down 60% because of rent control. You're not going to get more apartments by pushing this.
This pause is one of those rare interview moments where silence reveals so much.
I mean,
don't elected officials research issues before imposing government force on others?
I'm going to maintain that guaranteeing housing for people and making sure that they can stay in their homes matters more than anything else does.
You're a socialist.
Yeah.
Where has that ever worked?
Again, the pause says it.
I'm doing a just fine job of representing my community.
Yeah, so that was absolutely great, okay? I mean, okay, he confronts her with the fact that, hey, the builders are not wanting to actually build in these places where rent control has been implemented, okay? He confronts her with that fact, and of course, she kind of moves around and she starts talking about, hey, but the tenants, they need somewhere that's affordable. And he confronts her immediately with the fact that, hey, if the builders aren't able to build new units, right? If we aren't able to bring more units online, then housing will never be affordable, okay? There will be demand, but there won't be a supply for it, and that will drive prices up. This is basic economics. Everyone knows this stuff. So it absolutely blows my mind that, these politicians, it doesn't click for them, okay? So, you sit there and you point out the fact that, hey, in the city right next to St. Paul, Minneapolis, it's called the Twin Cities because Minneapolis and St. Paul are right next to each other. Well, when St. Paul passed this rent control ordinance, guess what happened? the new development dropped by 61%. Meanwhile, development in Minneapolis, the city right next door, is up 65%. You do the math, okay? The only difference being that in one city, there's rent control, and in the other city, there's not. The developers know that they can still make money on their projects in Minneapolis, but they fear that it's almost impossible for them to make money in St. Paul. So, like I've said about rent control so many times, right? It will scare away the developers. It will convince the landlords and those who rent properties within the city to sell to owner occupants or convert to condos. Basically, the amount of rental stock within the city will decline, okay? And that will make it even harder for these people to actually find rentals to live in. And not only that, but the properties that remain rentals, the landlords, they're not going to provide the amount of maintenance or upgrade. There's not going to be any upgrades because they can't keep pace with inflation even, okay? They can barely stay afloat if they're only allowed to do a 3% rent increase per year. And like this year, inflation was like 9%. So they've already lost money. The cost of everything has gone up. The cost of repairs, the cost of maintenance, the cost of utilities, the cost of your property taxes, the cost of insurance, the cost of everything has gone up. As I covered in another one of my videos, a landlord who has a mortgage on their property, 91% of the rental income that comes in goes to expenses. Okay, 91%. And even for a landlord without a mortgage, we're still talking about 60% of their entire rental income goes towards expenses. So don't give me this nonsense that, hey, landlords, they don't need to raise rents even when the cost for everyone else has increased, okay? Do they think the landlords live in some sort of a bubble? They're like, well, I can't afford a rent increase because everything is more expensive. And I'm like, well, by that same logic, a landlord can't afford to not increase rents because the price of everything has gone up for them as well. Okay? This is ridiculous. I am so opposed to rent control because it is a socialist policy, okay? What it does is it gives government control, government price controls over this one market, and it will destroy it. It will simply put destroy it. So I hope you like this video. If you want to see more of this, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and let me know if this kind of format is what you want to see in the future.